Hello. How are you doing? It's a bit of a feedback here from somewhere. So should I speak louder or be more silent? Cool. So now for something completely different. What I'm going to talk about today is about designing products and services for the disappearing computer. So basically, what happens when technology is suddenly all around us, and how does that change the things we as designers do? And I was really happy to hear Lisa's talk before me, because I think I'm going to be riffing a lot of similar themes from a bit different angle. So my background is pretty strongly in digital. I've been doing stuff for the web since about '97, and mobile from around 2000. And like I said, I'm one of the founders of IXDA Finland, and I've been working on interaction design since about 2004 or something like that. And work for consultancies, freelance, Nokia design, etc., etc. And since 2007, I've been working with Nordkapp. So basically, what we do is that we basically aim to connect people's needs with technology and help companies to actually tap into the opportunities digital disruption enables for them. And the stuff we do ranges from applications to strategy, concepts to product design for startups, service design on all major platforms. Actually, Lisa asked me yesterday, what's probably the most important project I've been working on? I answered, we've designed a RFID system for daycare. So that's sort of like, that's the deep end of the scope we do. We've done stuff for urban screens in Helsinki. We've done a lot of new product development. And as most of Scandinavia, Finland is known for the design heritage. So there's Alvar Aalto, Iittala, Fiskars, all of that. I went to a small school in the countryside, which was furnished by Artek. And the orange Fiskars scissors, all that kind of well-designed functional glassware is basically ubiquitous in Finland. And what makes the Finns tick design-wise is focus on functionality, humanness, and clarity in a way. And when Peter asked me a few months ago about how do I feel about service design, I actually replied something along the lines that I actually do design products and services, but I'm not really sure if I fully subscribe to the current notion of service design. And I guess that's partially why I'm here as well. The thing is, a lot of the design, a lot of the strategic design, service design looks like this. It's waving hands, post-it notes. And doing the abstractions, doing the intangible things is very important at times. But I feel that if we miss on the craft itself, if we fail to deliver, we actually fail to impact the businesses properly. So we have to make sure that there's always some kind of a link to concrete outcomes as well. And I also think designers tend to spend a bit too much time on talking about what is design. What is this particular branch of thing we do right now? So, of course, it's a natural reaction to fluffiness and change in the world right now. But instead of trying to redefine what is it you do in words, I'd rather see everyone just doing the things they do, working the projects they have, and showing what they mean through their work. And another thing, I'm going to talk about product and service design on general level as well. And I guess this requires a bit of an explanation. So when I talk about product design, I talk both about digital and physical products. And the important thing here is that when we compare product design and service design, I think it's a top-down approach. So it tends to be mostly about expert design. So, and now it works very well on making design-led products, making hardware, making simple web tools, for example. Because then it's led by a small team or few individuals who actually keep the vision clear. Service design, again, is very good at making and developing complex things that are social. Like we saw the social objects referred earlier as well. So service design offers a great set of tools to actually go to talk to people, observe them, and just to try to figure out what is it that they actually need, what kind of products they would love to use. And I think this is somewhat close to the magical equation. So if you combine technology and the change it enables, design as a top-level concept and a craft and a people we're designing for, and not necessarily in that order, we actually get magic. Magic will happen, but the question is, how do we get there? What comes after that? On a bit of a tangent, long before the electricity existed, the people in Egypt were aware of shocks from the electric fish in the River Nile. They referred to that as a thunder of the Nile and thought the electric fish were the guardian of the other fish in the river. And naturally, they used the strange thing to cure illnesses as well. So if you were having a headache, you were directed to go touch the eels, touch the fish, and in the hopes that the shock you would get from the fish would actually heal the headache. And I'm sure it probably made you forget you had a headache for a while. And around 600 BC, a Greek philosopher called Thales realized that you could actually generate electricity and sparks by rubbing amber to various substances like cat fur, like in the picture. And the word electric actually comes from the word electron, which is Greek for amber. And about 2,000 years later, in 1898, bona fide genius or a madman, depending from your point of view, Nikola Tesla demonstrated the phenomenon which he called teleautomaton. It was basically the first ever radio-controlled boat in the world. And he showed it to the people in a some kind of industrial fair in Madison Square Garden in New York. And the people's reactions to that were anything from like, they claimed that the boat was magical. They claimed that it was being piloted by a trained monkey, or it was being piloted by telepathy. So that kind of starts sounding quite familiar. And he went on inventing 300 or so patents and the death ray. And by his heritage helped the second industrial revolution happen, basically. So electricity became the standard, just like heavy machinery and steam engine before that. And we're now up to the point where you could actually call electricity fairly ubiquitous in the world. So having a socket in a wall isn't exactly a key selling point to anything. And the thing here is that we are at the point where the internet is about to come the same. So digital revolution works its way all around us in businesses, in our environment. It's basically turned into smartphones we use and computers and connected objects that not for long will be in our pockets, but on our bodies, basically, and in our homes. We're talking about computing without computers. And this is the mandatory William Gibson reference. You have to have one of these in every conference. So, and the thing is, like, he was mostly right, and he's still right quite often. The future's here, and it's been distributed fairly evenly already. So a lot of the things science fiction has predicted have come true. A lot of stuff has failed, but some things like screens are becoming everyday all around us. So what does this mean? When the car from Blade Runner is basically here. It's not flying, but it's got screens all over the place. What does it mean to designers? So Mark Weiser, a Xerox PARC researcher, He's the founding father of the term ubiquitous computing. And his point was that technology will become so pervasive that it'll recede in the background of our lives. And he called this calm computing, which I think is a beautiful term. So basically, it means that the purpose of a computer is to help you to do something else other than compute. And best computers are invisible servants that are quiet. And technology should create calm. And when the computers disappear, something very interesting happens. They become part of the everyday. So I think most of you are probably familiar with Arthur C. Clarke's third law of technology, which states that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. So when this magic becomes everyday, it basically loses its magic. It will become part of the everyday life. It will become ordinary. This so far has happened to basically nearly all the big breakthroughs in technology, and it will continue to happen. So there's a very, very little mistake in radio-controlled toys nowadays, for example. This is funny. It's an actual screenshot of a service called Smarter Socks. So it's basically it claims to be probably the smartest socks in the world. And it's a subscription service for socks. Has an RFID gadget that works with an iPhone app, and etc., etc. So you can pair your socks with Bluetooth. I'm not sure how useful that is, but it seems to work. So everything that can be software will be. And this basically has happened already. So a lot of the everyday objects we've used, like notepads, cameras, calculators, phone books, they've disappeared. So, or they haven't disappeared, but they basically turned into something intangible. Applications in our smartphones. So basically, they're now icons on a pane of glass, basically. And William Gibson admitted one particular thing he was wrong about. So instead of jacking into cyberspace through your brain, like he envisioned in the 80s, people chose to consume digital content in a much, much more ordinary way. So through their computers, mobile devices. What happens when you have applications that are tied to location, tied to context, that they create layers in the world? And they're basically, depending on the content, they are becoming anchored on the actual physical world we live in. So at any given time, we have access to different things like gaming, running away from zombies in our headphones, just browsing the web. And just a device with a pane of glass and GPS chip with a connection to the web will do for now. And humans adapt pretty quickly. So making a phone call hasn't been tied to a certain location for a while now. And we are in progress of exchanging a lot of physical service desks to applications or services in the cloud. And we lose in progress some of the personal service, personal human touch, but what we gain is 27 access to full-on peer-reviewed platforms. So if you look at this through the lens of service design, it basically means a whole new world. Mostly anything can be turned into a service. And for designers, it's kind of like holding level 2 of complexity. So the amount of touch points and interaction you can have with a service that's all around us actually increases exponentially. And basically, it's really, really, really important to find the right questions first, then start figuring out what is the most appropriate answer for this. So services should fit in the context they operate. They should be accessible everywhere. They have to be accessible as a mind share, meaning the brand. You have to trust the things you use. They have to be kind of like cognitively present as well. So whatever artifacts the service may have. And they should be intuitive, enjoyable. So The service avatars should be there for you when you need them, right then when you need them, but they should not be on the way. So for example, smart homes, home automation is pretty interesting field right now. Belkin, the hardware manufacturer, acquired a small startup called Wemo. Basically what happens, they plug a small thing in the wall between the socket and your appliance. And these things connect to web, they have an API, they have a web service. And you can trigger them through the if this then that.com web service. So basically you can build macros to anything in your home, in the physical things. And the potential points of dialogue can already be anything from mobile device to web service, to thermostat on your wall, to kitty litter box, basically. This is actually their own example. So you can hook your cat's litter box to the web. Then it tweets you back when the sun is changing. But of course you can use these things to a lot of other stuff, like even to prevent the burglary in your home. And I'm probably stating the obvious here, but when we build services that are all around us, they aren't just digital. So quite the contrary, they can be physical artifacts everywhere. They can be digital, they can be situated on the streets in the city. London bike scene, the Boris bikes, is a pretty good example of this. So it's something that lives on the streets as bicycles, which are drivable from A to B. It's got a web service, it's got an API. So basically, you can actually see and touch the service avatar in form of visualization of the data without even going near the service anywhere. And the things that are around us, they are different. So there's stuff that's quite dumb, really. So stuff like QR codes, NFC tags, which have no intelligence, no smartness whatsoever without the service, without the cloud. Then there's like stuff that enables us to do things, like Wi-Fi light bulbs, Wi-Fi networks. But still the cloud and the mobile creates the meaning around the actual service. And then there's stuff like Nike Fuel Band. So the actual device has a bit of intelligence, smartness in it. So it calculates things for you, but it actually feeds stuff to the cloud, and cloud creates the service experience, creates a longevity there. And I'm predicting we'll see the concept of digital butlers popping up in a lot of places. So because we project our hopes and wishes to the technology which is dumb, basically. And we in homes that they will help us. And they know us better than we know ourselves. This is the promise behind quantified self, for example. Another interesting thing here is that the relationship with digital things is changing. So basically, it's about perception of value. So we can already have electric locks in our home, which can be opened by a smartphone app. We can rent a car through a smartphone app and go walk to the car, unlock it with an iPhone. So it's very different from actually acquiring a physical key from somewhere, putting it into the lock, feeling the actual weight and response, and turning the key. And at the moment, digital is very easy. There's no haptic feedback, so it's like this. So the perception of value in there is a very interesting thing. And for quite some time, the computers around us, they're not really capable of any kind of human intelligence or warmth. But the thing is, we can now already have characters that have behavior, have warmth. So there's two different things. So here's an example of, it's actually my own screenshot. I was surprised that it works. Apple Siri. So it's really well done service paired with an avatar that has a voice, has an audible human voice, has a persona. So what happens here is that basically when the service has a character, we separate it from the actual computer behind that. So in our minds, it doesn't fail when the actual computing fails. And a lot of web services are using this at the moment as well. So there's a lot of potential creepiness. Like, for example, my Instagram tells me constantly my friends on Twitter joined in their service. And I follow a lot of people on Twitter, a lot of brands. So quite often they're inanimate things. There might be even bots that join Instagram. And they're definitely not my friends. So these kind of assumptions are easy to make, but they get spooky pretty fast. But it's not the technology that creates the humanness here. So it's about the story. It's about the character we create, how it behaves, and what kind of persona it is, what kind of language we use, simple things. And the thing that really makes almost any design great is the details. So we live in the age where more and more signals compete for our attention. So you have to be consistent, you have to be cohesive to actually get your message through. And that requires a lot of craft. Skillfully crafted interaction, behavior, visuals. Because intuition is a funny thing. We say that interfaces feel intuitive, but the thing is, for 99% of the people, nothing that is new feels intuitive ever. Because intuition actually is perceived familiarity. So we basically reflect our past experience and learnings to new things. And that's why things like skeuomorph works pretty well. Because we pick up cues, affordances, how we should approach the digital object. And without going too much in the semantics of design, I think it's one really important thing to realize about doing new products, new services. So change is really hard. And the more different, more disruptive behavior or thing you're going to introduce, the harder it is to actually make people adapt that. There's something in architecture called pace layering, which suggests that buildings can be divided into different layers. So there's the core, which is pretty much there, it's immobile, changes very slowly. But then there's the paint in the walls, which can be changed really, really easily. And stuff like interior layout, your furniture inside the house, they're very easy to change. It's kind of like, I've used this metaphor before, and I use it again, because I think it works pretty well. Feels just like watching a landscape from a moving train at high speed. So basically, the fashion design closest to you is basically a blur. And if we look at stuff that's happening in fashion at the moment, it's like there's all kinds of experiments and failures. That some of them work, some of them aren't, but they just happen basically. But when you go to infrastructure, governance, things like that, the service design touches quite often already. Change there is really super hard because cultural structures and in a society, they're really slow. So, for example, doing a mobile app is very easy. But trying to dig a hole in the street in a city is much, much harder already. And trying to change a bureaucratic system is even harder. But the good thing here is that the rate of change complies with Moore's law. So basically, new things gain air momentum really slow. But when they actually gain traction, they peak. And if we get our work down to the bureaucratic cultural societal level, there's mass adoption waiting to happen there. But these things take time. And that's kind of like on the contrary of digital design, where at some point someone said that 1 year is 3 months in digital design. So we kind of like, we are going to the other direction here. And that's why things like affordance and skeuomorph, really anthropomorphism, they matter. This is a thing called little printer by a company called Berg. It prints out your stuff from the web on a receipt paper. And has a friendly face on purpose, basically, because it's new and a bit weird. It's kind of like, if you think of it, the things it does, they have no place in the world right now. So you have to introduce that new thing somehow through familiarity, in a way. Same thing with iOS. So you can think whatever you like from the textures in Apple Calendar, but iPhone's becoming a mass product, and real-life feeling is just easy to use for people who have their iPhones, their iPad as their first computers. This feels natural, feels something that they've seen before. It's basically ordinary UI design for ordinary people. And quite a few famous architects and designers, they've always been polymaths. They've done a lot of things from architecture, furniture, and all kinds of design. So Eames, Aalto, all those folks, they design everything from city plans, to building to furniture. And they were kind of like the service designers of their age. They tackled the big, hairy problems, but also went into the details, doing the craft itself, doing the furniture, etc., etc. And I think this is something inspires me, that in today's society we're dealing with increasing complex and hairy problems. So we should basically deal in a similar way, just start doing stuff. And real honest design-led thinking is a really good tool to finding answers to a lot of hard problems, kind of making meaning for people. And change is hard, and designing connected products, ubiquitous services, it's going to quite some time actually be more about designing the change than designing the cool new technology instead. But they will become ordinary. They will become everyday, sooner or later. And as designers, we have a huge responsibility to actually both experiment and fail in what we do, but also to make the right considered steps towards building future-proof systems. We should approach it very humbly, but still with wider scope and ambition. Because entropy is pretty much natural state in nature. And the thing you design today may as well become the standard structure for tomorrow. Jaron Lanier calls this thing karma vertigo. And that's something we all should take in our work. So do stuff, be bold, but still make our craft really well. And the things we say shape the things we do, basically. So we should talk about the difficult stuff. We should try to solve them. Service design is perfect for dealing with the big, hairy problems. Maybe even solve them with big ideas. Who knows? But in the end, what we do is really simple. But we just have to do it really well. Thank you. Wrong direction.
Thank you. That was great. And also, it's a very interesting lead into lunch and a lot to talk about. And I was very happy that you actually brought up semiotics, because we're using language and terminology like there is no tomorrow, and everybody understands something else when you hear some pretty important terms like experience or design. So I hope there's more discussion around that over lunch. But before, all the people that are so hungry and already leaving the premises, and now I made them feel guilty, that's like behavior modification, instantly, in real time. Is there a question? I sure hope so. And I could incentivize people that want to leave. They can leave right now if they ask a question.
Here's one in front.
Oh, perfect.
You talked about the, sorry, Olivier Perez from Enigma. I just want to know, you were talking about iOS getting more and more looking like real objects, so it's skeuomorphism. So basically, you like this kind of, you think this way helps people to work through their app? Because for me, when I see sometimes that, I have the feeling that it's like an imitation that 99% of the time failed terribly.
I mean, a lot of people try too hard, but I think it was like Steve Jobs' vision was to actually do real-life computer, make the actual computer disappear. So, because he followed Xerox PARC pretty closely, and already the first Apple Macintosh, they were around corners because he wanted to make them assemble real-life objects, traffic signs. So I think the iOS iPhone is definitely heading to that direction. And if you look at iPhone 5, it's a black slate, it's a pane of glass. So it's kind of like, I think this is the first version of a disappearing computer in our hands already. And when you compare this to, let's say, Windows Phone, which I really like design-wise as well, it's much more abstract. So sort of like the functionality is being abstracted a couple of notches up in the interface. Here I've got like filler facts, which I can tap. On the Windows Phone, there's the content, which I tap to. So it's kind of like same end result, but the way I get there mentally is very different. And I'm not a fan of the stitched letter and that kind of stuff myself, but I understand why it is there.
Thank you. Sami.
Thank you.